How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.
My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts. This is Jonathan Gillum, and this is The Experts on Facebook Live, Twitter, and YouTube. Man, there was so much in the news today that it was too much for the headline of the show, so I figured, you know what, let's just talk about all of it. Now make sure that you are sharing this show. I'm going to do it right now on my iPads right here. And tell everybody about this show. You know, Facebook and Twitter, they're stopping everybody that's conservative, it seems like, these days, from their shows being populated. So make sure that you're doing that. Turn this down. And we're going to get started. I want to talk about, I have United Airlines mentioned last on there, but I want to get started with that first. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my goatee and my beard as well. As you can see, I shaved it down. I don't like it like this. Let's get started right now. Okay. First things first. Let's see here. You make sure that you are, right now, make sure that you are sharing this show. Let me see how many people we have here on Twitter. We've got to wait for it to pop up here. Okay. We've been having some halfway decent numbers on Twitter, but not compared to some of these other shows that I see. I mean, there are some corny shows, especially on Twitter, that I don't know who actually could watch these shows. Remember, I'm not just somebody who gets up here and hosts a show, but I'm a newsie. I'm very interested in current events. From being a servant to the country, it's very important to have a knowledge of what's going on. Even if I wasn't doing a show, I'd still be watching and paying close attention to the news. So it's very, very important for me to understanding what's going on. But there's some shows on Twitter that literally are just so, it's like, I'm not going to mention the names of them, but it is like watching Tammy Faye Baker and Jim Baker and all those. It is horrible, but yet they get literally thousands of people tuning in live, and then afterwards like 75,000 views. Unless people are just tuning in with their mouths hanging open in shock, I'm not exactly sure what is going on in order to get these numbers. If anybody knows this mystery, let me know, because it's a mystery to me. I don't know how to figure this out. Again, remember, I started this 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, when I was on CNN. And CNN was not using me after about 4 months because I'd come on there and tell the truth. They didn't want the truth. They wanted you to follow a narrative and to be politically correct. I can do neither one of those things. I'm not politically correct, nor do I follow narratives. I stick to the truth, and even though it may be politically incorrect sometimes, I don't pull my punches. So they weren't using me. They were still paying me, keeping me from being on other networks. And so I figured, you know what? This is free. I can come on here and do this. And then it kind of progressed from there, where now I built a studio and I have guests on here. I was trying to get Scott Eulinger on here tonight, but he's not answering my text to talk about this new CIA director. I don't know if that's going to happen tonight. So point being, I'm still figuring it out after 2 years. I've got the production stuff down, the lighting. I've learned a lot from the guys at Newsmax and CNN and Fox behind the scenes and how to do this stuff. And so that's paid off tremendously. But I've not been able to crack that secret of how these people are getting such high numbers when I, as a newsie, can't even watch it. It's just that bad to watch. But it is. Maybe it's the white t-shirt. I don't know. Is this throwing everybody off? I don't know. Anyway, second thing I want to talk about is trivial. Doesn't mean anything to anybody, but I want to ask and get people's opinion. I shaved my goatee down and left my hair. It's the first time I've done this since I was in the FBI, and I suffer from a long line. I'm not putting down the Goodalls or the Gillums, but we suffer from turkey goblet syndrome. We have our necks go straight into our chin. Anybody else out there have that same problem? So that's why I've always had a big beard, because it's my way of fooling the people into thinking that I have a chin. So for me, when I shave my beard, it'd be like a woman reverse mohawking her head. It just doesn't fit for me. It doesn't feel good. I've been getting compliments, but I feel as though I look like a chipmunk when I shave my a chipmunk that's already stored its nuts for the and its different things for the winter. But anyway, so let me know what you think. Dave Robinson joined. I'm sure that he'll let me know. So let's go, and we're going to go to. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk real quick. I probably destroyed this show already. I want to talk about United Airlines. Unbelievable. I pulled all these stories up here. I want to start with this one. Why is it that United Airlines continues to have such bad press? Is it just because people don't like them, and so they're more apt to tell these things. Do the things that happen on United Airlines really not happen on other airlines? Be careful putting those mean faces up on Facebook, because if I get too many of those, they'll shut the show down. That's what I heard. So I can't figure out what it is with United Airlines. Don't forget, if you haven't shared this show on Facebook, share it, and if you haven't retweeted it on Twitter, retweet it real quick. But I can't figure out what's going on in United Airlines, because, first it's this guy a while back. The guy got drug off the plane. We had that happen, and that looked horrible. And then we had, I don't know, there's been a whole number. They had another incident with passengers. And now, I mean, it's terribly sad. This dog dies on a United flight when, listen, I'm going to make this perfectly clear. When I was an air marshal, the flight attendants that I flew with, on the whole, were exceptional men and women that really are the unsung heroes of the sky. They are the ones who, stop the fight. They're like law enforcement officers in the sky. They just don't have guns and badges, but they stop the fights from happening. They control. People act like idiots when they get on planes. I don't know if I'm sure you've experienced that. If you've flown or sat in an airport, people act like children when they get into an airport. It's ridiculous. They act terrible. Now I'm not talking about the employees. I'm talking about people. I used to watch, as an air marshal, sit on the plane. I'd watch people walk down, and I'm always very careful about this, but they would have like a big purse, or they would have their luggage slung over their shoulder, just smacking people in the head. Or an old woman walks on the plane or a pregnant lady, instead of helping her out with her luggage, put it up there, they just sit there and watch. Never understood that. But the flight attendants were always the unsung heroes. They're the ones who were able to deal with this nonsense. But every once in a while, you would run into one of these morons who, it's always those few that ruin it for the rest of the people. And it's funny, because I've always subscribed to the thing that 90% of the people don't do that much, and 10% of the people do all the work. But yet that 10% are the ones who always get in trouble and ruin it. But let me back up there. 10% of the people do all the work. 90% of the people, they either half-ass it or don't do a whole lot. Yet out of that 90% that don't do much, there's always one or two that ruin it for everybody else. And that's the case with these flight attendants, is that you would see some of these people that were just crazy. One time, I was getting on a plane with the other air marshal, and we wanted to get on the plane. I can't go into too much stuff about what we did there as an air marshal, but we were wanting to get on the plane before everybody else, and so we kind of walked around. We'd already identified ourselves to this lady. She knew who we were. We walk around the ticket thing, because everybody was getting all ready to get on the plane. We walked around. We were going to go in or on the plane. And she literally walks around and in front of everybody screams, "Hey, stop!" And I wasn't even sure she was yelling at us, but I turned around because I thought maybe there was another passenger that was running down there or something. And I turned around, and she's standing there yelling with all the passengers behind her now looking at us. And I looked at her, and I tried to say, "Hey, hold on a second." I walked up to her. I said, you know who we are." And instead of whispering back to me, she says, "I don't care who you are." This is down in Miami, where everything was crazy down in Miami. "I don't care who you are. You're not getting on that plane until everybody else gets on the plane." I was shocked that this woman had said that. So at this point, we're ruined. Everybody knows that something's up. So again, I pull my credentials out, and I discreetly show her my credentials. And I said, let me just show you something here. And I read to her what it says on my credentials. And I said, "I don't give a crap what you think about whether or not I should or should not be able to get on this plane. I'm under the authority of the United States government getting on this plane. And so I closed my credentials and we walked on, and I immediately walked up to the captain and told him, I don't think we can fly on this plane because our entire cover has been blown. And so he said, I don't care if your cover's been blown. I want you on this plane. And he was really pro air marshal, and so I don't know what happened to that lady. But the only reason I'm telling you this story, I mean, that's just one of 1,000 stories of bad staff members or people in the airline industry. But there's always going to be these bad people. And that wasn't even United Airlines. That was another airline. But I don't know what's going on with United, because it seems like every time I turn around in the news, United is guilty of some other major screw up. In this case, and I can't even believe that I am having to say this. Let me see if I can even pull this up on my other computer here. United Airlines flight attendant forced a family to stick a French bulldog into the overhead bin during the flight. And it was apparently the French bulldog was, let's see here. The girl that was had it on there with her was 8 years old, I believe. The puppy was 10 months old. The flight attendant forced the family to stick it in the overhead bin, and for 3 hours. What do you think happened? Those dogs, there's specific breeds of dog that are very sensitive to flying, and French Bulldog is one of those dogs. And I'm going to pull this up here. And they have problems breathing already, but it was overheated in that little bin. You know, dogs' body core temperature is typically 101 degrees, so it's a little higher than our body temperature. So you got to figure when you put them in a small environment like that, it's going to raise the temperature of whatever small environment that they're in, and that's exactly what happened. It suffocated. Overheated or suffocated. There's probably limited amount of air supply in there, and so the dog just died. And when they got there, they said they had heard it, and they had heard it whimpering in there, and they just thought maybe the dog was uncomfortable, but the dog had perished. And I'm just shocked. Somebody's asking on Twitter, did it die? Yes, it died. And let's see here. This is off of foxnews.com. Dog dies on United flight after flight attendant forces passengers to put in carrier in overhead bin. And there's a little French bulldog. And then there's a picture of it afterwards. And the only reason I'm showing you these pictures is because, I mean, how stupid can you be? How stupid of a human being can you be to shove a dog into an overhead bin and think that that's not going to cause it to be stressed? It is pitch black in there. The oxygen level, the pressure is at 9,000 feet in a plane. When you get in there and they pressurize the cabin, the oxygen is also reduced to 9,000 feet, which means it's going to have less oxygen. You're going to put it in a closed, almost a sealed environment, and you're going to expect a dog that puts out 100 degrees body temperature not to heat that up. And if it's anything else is wrong with United Airlines, maybe who knows, they could even have the heat turned up too high on that plane. But the dog died, and I'm just shocked by this unbelievably incompetent behavior on the part of a flight attendant. And United Airlines, again, do you not have policies at United Airlines that think through these things? Do you not have standard operating procedures? I mean, the CEO of that company should step down. They should completely halt everything. The government should make United Airlines stop everything that they're doing. And they should stop, and they should go through, and they should do a safety stand down, just like we do in the military when something stupid like this happens, and figure it out. What are your standard operating procedures? Do you not realize that you can't put a small animal this is not familiar to them, or even you're not going to put a human up there. You stick them in that overhead bin and the plane's taking off. It's jostling. It's loud. It's hot. The dog already has a problem breathing because of its breed, and you stick it up there and you're afraid when it dies. That lady should go to jail for this, I believe. I know people would say that's a bit much. I don't think it is. How can you trust, at the minimum, she should be fired, and the rest of that crew should be fired for allowing that to happen and not standing up and saying, whoa, whoa. The CEO should resign for not having better standard operating procedures, and United Airlines practices and procedures should be looked at by the FAA, because something is up with that airline. It is just, if it's not one thing, it's another. It's always United. The other thing I do want to mention is that Spirit Airlines should be shut down. It is the absolute, out of all, and I've flown on almost all of them, Spirit Airlines is the worst. Spirit Airlines is, don't fly on it. They advertise themselves as a discount airline, but once you go on it, what's going to happen is that you're going to pay less for the ticket, but any carry-on, not bag that you store, you're going to have to pay for those as well, but any carry-on is going to cost you $50 to $55, depending. I don't remember what the difference was. $50 to $55 for every carry-on. And then on top of that, they don't serve water unless you buy it in a bottle, and the seats don't recline. Everybody's seats are crammed together, and they do not recline. That is the worst airline I've ever flown on. Every single person that I came in contact with that airline was nasty and not nice and not helpful. Do not fly Spirit Airlines. I'm telling you right now. You may look at it and say, cha-ching, I'm getting a discount. You will regret it. Stand by. Somebody is dying to say hello. Speaking of dogs. Say hi. Yeah, okay. So anyway, United Airlines, this dog, of course, he's 18. He's not flying anywhere, but he will never be flying on United Airlines. And I'll tell you something else, folks. If you get on an airplane and somebody does something stupid and unsafe like that, just say no. It's not happening. The worst can happen. They're going to make you take another flight. But listen, that's not worth it, right? You feel better now? Can I do the show? Yeah, there's a lot going on up here in there. All right, you can stay here. So anyway, that's all I want to say about United Airlines. Don't fly them. Let's go to, and God bless the family and, what was the name of this little dog? Let me see here. Stand by. Trying to find the name of this dog. Oh, yeah. Papacito. We'll see you, Papacito. And you too, Ricocito. All right. Let's get back into the real, not that that's not real news, but let's get back into this. Let's go to the A block. All right. You can tell I get fired up on something because I'm sweating by the end of it. So, let's pull up some headlines, because there's some crazy stuff going on in the news today. Starting with, I don't even got to pull this up. I watched Rex Tillerson's speech today. I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm a Rex Tillerson fan. I didn't really know much about Rex Tillerson except that I could tell that he was a globalist. At least that's what I felt like with Rex Tillerson. I didn't feel as though he is on board with Trump. Rex Tillerson's like your typical Texan rich person. And, I didn't get a good feel for him from the start. And he's a big oil guy. So, whatever. He's gone now. He gave an interesting speech. Never mentioned the president by name. But I'm good. I like Mike Pompeo. I think Mike Pompeo, if I had to look at everybody in the cabinet, Mike Pompeo has real experience. I do not like, I'm not saying I don't like Harvard grads. I don't put any weight on a Harvard diploma. I'm sorry, I don't. You could have a doctorate degree from Harvard. Doesn't mean a single thing to me, because the majority of issues that we have in this country have been caused by policies written by people from Harvard and Columbia and these other Ivy League elite schools. Ivy League, don't know what, I don't even care about what that means. And elite, I don't see how you can consider something elite. I mean, the SEAL teams are elite. Almost everything we do is a success because we study deeply our standard operating procedures and how to improve those things constantly. And the ones that we do consider, we become the best at those tactics, techniques, and procedures. And so that is elite. But when it comes to, in comparison to that, the FBI, for instance, where, it's a lot of check the boxes, and the investigators used to be the elite. I don't think that FBI investigators are the elite anymore. I think the FBI has a certain amount of equipment, and they have certain tactics and things that they can use, but I don't think overall that they hire elite people. All right. This dog is driving me crazy tonight. So, but when it comes to Mike Pompeo, who is a Harvard graduate, he, is also a West Point grad. He, is a veteran. The guy has been around. He's done enough to prove himself, and as far as politics go, he's been in it enough to where he knows how it works. So I do like Mike Pompeo's experience. I almost wish he wasn't leaving the CIA, because I feel like that's a very important place for him to be. I don't know anything about the woman that he is taking over for him, except for that she's, I believe, a lifelong bureaucrat within the CIA. That I don't know how much experience she has in the field, but so I don't want to say anything about her at this point in time. But I have no feelings about Rex Tillerson overall. So we'll see how this plays out. It seems like, I think it was a good choice, and I think that the president I think something has clicked in him that nobody else is really talking about, and that is that I believe he is starting to understand the reality of globalists. I don't know if he got that before, but it seems like everybody that he's gotten rid of recently has been globalist. And so I think that something must have clicked somewhere, because he seems to be making that type of a change. So let's hope that's what the deal is, because that's the last thing that we need in this country are more globalists. Also, let's see what else. I think the funniest thing of the day was that the undersecretary went out and made a public statement saying that Rex Tillerson was not prepared for this and that he was totally blindsided. That undersecretary was subsequently fired as well. Now, I think that's very funny. I think that's hilarious. You know, when something like this happens, when the big generals or the super chiefs or those people are being moved around, you should best keep your mouth shut, because that you could follow right along, and that's what happened. Now, Celine Cuomo on Facebook says, fire Sessions and Rosenstein. I know that there's at least one person watching that has strong feelings about Sessions, but I will say that, yes, I agree. Rod Rosenstein, Christopher Wray, and a whole host of tenured veterans of the DOJ and the upper echelons of the FBI should be fired, and Jeff Sessions should go right along with them. Anybody that likes Trey Gowdy, you need to take another look at that guy. I'm telling you, I've been saying this from the beginning. Trey Gowdy is a snake in the grass. He is refusing to investigate. I'm going to look into some stuff. I was just receiving some headlines about Trey Gowdy. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. But Trey Gowdy has been doing some stuff when it comes to pushing some investigations forward. I thought he was leaving, by the way, but evidently he's not. So I don't like Trey Gowdy. So don't go on and say, oh, he should be the next Attorney General, because he's bad. If you want anybody, Andy McCarthy. If the president wanted to look at anybody, he should look at Andy McCarthy, the assistant U.S. attorney. I think he was assistant U.S. attorney that went after the blind sheikh after 9/11. And Andy McCarthy is, I think, even though I've never been able to get him on this show, I think he is spot on with somebody that you can trust with the knowledge that you need. Now, let's look at some more headlines. Let's see here. Okay, everybody's wanting to talk about this, I know. The special election in Pennsylvania between Lamb and Saccone. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't pay a lot of attention to this until today. And I listened kind of in the background, but I never really sat down and actually studied this. But this is what's interesting. Democrat Connor Lamb, he's 33 years old. He's a Marine veteran and former federal prosecutor. Okay. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say that I have all the experience in the world. You know, I did a lot of different things over a 20-year period, and I spent, you know, I wouldn't say a tremendous amount of time in all the things that I did. I was a cop for a very short period of time in Arkansas at Camp Robinson. I was a Navy SEAL officer for 5 years, right at 5 years. I was an air marshal for a year. I was a contractor for 3 years and an FBI special agent for 8 years. So I've done a lot of different things over a period of time. And now I've been in media for going on, right at 5 years, I guess. I've been out of the FBI for 5 years, and I went almost immediately into media, and that's why I've learned how to do all these different things. So I've crafted, you know, I'm giving myself an education in journalism and in media myself, without having to go to school for it. I don't know why you would have to go to school for this stuff. But anyway, this guy, and I saw that Ralph says Semper Fi. You're going to want to hold on to that Semper Fi for a second. So this guy, Connor Lamb, he's a 33-year-old Marine veteran. First of all, 33 years old. He was a Marine and a federal prosecutor, which tells me at 33 he didn't spend a whole lot of time in either one of those professions. Now, the reason I just said and brought up my experience is because I don't want people thinking that I'm going to go around saying, you know, you got to spend more time, because, you know, I didn't spend a whole tremendous amount. I didn't spend 20 years in the SEAL teams. I didn't spend 20 years in the FBI. In fact, you can't really do that because of the way the federal system is all screwed up. But I did enough of these things over a 20-year period where my knowledge is well-rounded in a different way than other people's knowledge when it comes to how tactics, techniques, and procedures work. And so in law enforcement and in military. But this guy's 33. I mean, I didn't, you know, finish my official service till I was in my 40s. So this guy's 33. He was a Marine. He was a former prosecutor, federal prosecutor, and he's a Democrat. And I have a real problem with people. I don't care if you have some liberal ideologies, okay? But for a Marine and a federal prosecutor, he's taken the oath twice, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. He now is running with the party, a political party that is a private company, that is let's not kid ourselves, it's a communist party. If you're liberal and you're watching this show and you think that the Democratic Party, I'm not just saying this because I guess my belief system falls under the term of conservative. The Democratic Party, I would gladly sit down with liberals, as I say nightly on this show, and come up with realistic solutions to stuff. I'm a realist. I don't subscribe to a Republican or Democratic Party. I'm a realist. But the Democratic Party is led by communists. They may call themselves socialists or democratic socialists, the same thing that the communists called themselves back in the 40s, by the way. Progressive Democrats, that's another one. This guy, Connor Lamb, swore an oath to the Constitution as a Marine and as a federal prosecutor, is running as a Democrat, and he's a liar saying that he supports all these things that Trump, and he's likes Trump. And okay, so he's doing one of two things, okay? He's either pulling a Sheriff Clark, Sheriff David Clark, who was the sheriff in Milwaukee, I believe. Most people don't even realize, he goes around saying all the stuff about, this and that, but he was a Democrat. Most people don't even realize he won on a Democratic ticket. Now, maybe he did that because that's the only way he could get elected. I don't know. I've never had a conversation with Sheriff Clark. I'd like to ask him that question. But the same thing here. If that's the case and this guy's just trying to get elected, then, and he gets elected, I hope he goes and does the right thing when he gets and makes the right choices. He's going to be persona non grata with all the communist Democrats that are up there, or he's lying to the people of Pennsylvania, and they're stupid enough to believe in this district where it's almost always been Republican. He may very well win this. I don't know. I haven't seen if they've declared a winner yet, but he may very well win this special election. And I find it very shocking when I listen to the people talking about how, he's a veteran. I listened to this one guy on Fox Business. They were talking to a voter, said he's a veteran, and he likes, the president and this and that. And I'm sitting here thinking about, and then he goes, but the other guy, I really don't know anything about him. Okay, obviously you didn't study who the other person was. This guy campaigned better, but as a voter, you can't just say in the other person, I don't know. So you're telling me you always voted Republican, but now some guy's going to come out and say, well, I'm a veteran, I'm a Marine. Don't you realize, voters in Pennsylvania and around the country, that you have to look at the party? That this guy is either lying to the Democratic Party or he's lying to the people of Pennsylvania, and he's going to turn around and he's going to screw somebody when he turns around. Most likely it's going to be the people. That's what I'm thinking. So I don't know if he has won or not. Of course, he's going against the Republican, Rick Saccone, who's age 60, who is an Air Force veteran, which I think is interesting because that the person that they were interviewing didn't realize that he's also a veteran. If you would have listened to that interview, you would have sworn that the guy was talking about how, Lamb is a veteran. I don't know about the other guy. Well, the other guy's a veteran too. So he's just a veteran of, yes, the Air Force is legitimately part of the military. So we'll see what happens. The other problem you have is that, first of all, I don't typically say this about Marines, but this guy looks like he needs to be throat punched because he just looks like a, what is it with all the Democrats, the young Democrat men wanting to look like John F. Kennedy and never pulling it off? There's only one John F. Kennedy. Everybody else just looks like Joe Scarborough with too much hair. So anyway, we'll see what happens. I don't know if the results come out while I'm on. We'll see. I'll go back to the don't know yet. Don't know yet what's happening. Okay. That's all I have to say on that one. Let's go to, I think it's the B block. Are we in the B block? Let's go to the B block, and I want to talk about some more headlines. All right. So here's the next one. I don't typically do these shows where I go through the headlines like this, so it's kind of fun. U.S. Appeals Court upholds Texas law targeting sanctuary cities. Man, I think this is awesome, especially in the state of Texas where nightly I'm telling everyone that you have got serious issues, Texas. You really are in a world of hurt. There is such a tidal wave of leftist Democratic candidates for all types of political positions in Texas that you are not staying on top of this. You may have your guns, and look, I've said this before. Growing up in Arkansas, I always felt like we were the stepchild to Texas, because Texas is so proud, and there, Arkansas, you never heard of, how, nothing's as big as Arkansas. You never heard of something like that. It's like Arkansas is subdued. It's a Mike Huckabee versus what's his name? The Ranger that Walker, whatever his name was. Somebody help me out there in the brain room. Chuck Norris as a Ranger. That's Texas. Arkansas was Mike Huckabee. So, I was always kind of jealous of Texas, but the reality is, look, you live in Texas, your ego is getting the best of you because you can drive around in your truck and have your land and your guns, but the reality is you are being subverted that fast, and you need to get on board with understanding that politics, Walker, Texas Ranger, that was it. You got to understand that you may think you're Walker, Texas Ranger, but if you keep playing the cards that you're playing, you're going to be Adam Schiff in Texas, because that's the type of politicians that are coming over there. Liar, leftist, and you better get on board. But thank goodness you got Greg Abbott, who is a Republican in Texas. Again, I don't like the Republican Party, but it appears as though if you're a conservative or if you're a realistic thinker and not a communist, you got to be in the Republican Party in order to get anything done. Governor Greg Abbott, I think the guy is amazing. But here's something that bothered me about this, okay? In a new ruling, this comes off of Fox.com, a federal appeals court has upheld most of Texas's law targeting sanctuary cities in what some are calling the toughest state-level immigration measures in the country. Now, I thought, man, and it is good, but this is what kills me about this, is that one of the big things about this is that they are, let's see where to go here. They can now ask people when cops pull them over, they can ask them if their immigration status. I mean, when did that become where you can't do that? I thought that only happened in New York City and a couple other big cities around the country. But how is it that Texas wasn't asking people when they pull them over, are you a United States citizen? I mean, it's a border state. Why? How has that not been commonplace? So the other thing that they're doing is they're going to hand down let's see here. This is a different story a minute ago, and they changed it. It allows police officers in Texas to ask people their immigration status when doing routine stops. I mean, I was thinking it was going to be something way bigger than that. I mean, I just can't believe that's not been the case. It also threatens officials with jail time for not cooperating with federal immigration authorities. This is awesome because it is going to have great impact on sanctuary cities. As the governor said, we are going to confront dangerous sanctuary cities. Trump said that during his visit. I am calling on Congress to deliver a budget that protects our homeland and properly funds all of our law enforcement needs. What they need to do, starting with the idiot that runs Oakland, Yes, you can call a woman an idiot. This is equal rights, and everybody wants to, hashtag be equal. Okay, then let's call an idiot an idiot. The woman that runs Oakland is an idiot, and she should be in jail. And so what I hope is that I don't have any faith in Sessions, but what I would hope is that either Sessions or the president fires him and gets somebody else, and they go after this mayor of Oakland, and then they just go. They need to get de Blasio before he does anything worse to this city in New York. It's unbelievable, this freaking guy. I think I talked about him yesterday. So anyway, I think this is great that the U.S. Appeals Court upheld Texas law, which, because it was a federal appeals court, means that other states can now do the same thing, and I really hope that they do. Let's go to the next one. This is a good one. NBC star Lester Holt sees ratings plummet amid fallout from North Korea trip and anti-Trump attitude. Well, this just tickles me to death because, first of all, I mean, I don't know what NBC is. I look at NBC just like I look at United Airlines, a little bit different though, but NBC used to be so quality TV. Remember that? Remember how back when Saturday Night Live was great and Thursday nights you had Seinfeld and then you had Friends. It was just, you used to turn to NBC for real TV entertainment. Good quality shows. We still watch those shows in reruns. I'm a huge Seinfeld fan. But NBC has turned into a leftist organization, along with MTV, ABC, CBS, CMT. We could go on down the line. Nickelodeon, all these places. It's all about indoctrination. It's all about narrative. It's all about, to the left, far to the left. So it appears as though NBC has been in the ratings crushed by ABC, which I don't know what that means, but I guess it means that ABC is crap and they crushed NBC, which has held the lead in nightly news for 2 decades. So, that's what happens. I don't know what happened on the disastrous trip to North Korea. I didn't watch it. Evidently, he fell to North Korean propaganda. I don't even know what happened. Let's see here. He gave a cheery report from a ski resort in the Hermit Kingdom that looked, it's off of FoxNews.com as well, that looked to be bustling when it was widely known to actually be a ghost town. What an idiot. So, yep, that's what happens when you're stupid and you're a leftist and you just cannot look at reality. That's what worries me the most, is that people that deem themselves liberal are in ESPN as well. Thank you, Marcus. People that are liberal are so quick to just follow whoever says that what they want to hear. I mean, it's gotten to a point now where you can't even carry a conversation on with people without it getting heated. I'm still seeing people that I know and love talk about gun rights and the Constitution and getting rid of the AR-15s and this and that, and Trump going back saying he's not going to raise right now the age to 21, which I think is a great move. And they're putting up articles and posting articles on Facebook and stuff as though that is the big thing that's going to change this country and make it safer. You don't see these people, and I'm shocked. They're not putting up stuff about how important it is that we get back, and most of these people that put these things up are divorced and their kids have been raised by one parent and the next, or they've gone back and forth. Listen, why aren't people putting things out like we need to build family units again? We need, even if we're divorced, we need to have where we come together and have dinner at night. How about where we start teaching people manners, which is going to lead me into my truth zone here. You don't see any of this stuff about respecting authority. We took away the power of the teachers to discipline the children in the classroom so they run rampant and beat teachers up. You got adults now that grew up in that, just like over in the Middle East. You have people that grew up in a war zone. They are now seasoned warriors because they literally grew up from the age of like birth until now, 17 years later, in a war zone. So they know how we work. They're very smart. They've been fighting us, or they've been in and around it for 17 years. So they now know how we work. Those people are hardened warriors at 17 years old. Well, same thing. For 17 years, this country has been on a parallel downwards. And these are children who grew up being indoctrinated by a hyper-sexualized Nickelodeon, MTV, CMT, all the rest of these different movies and shows and video games that you can play, the internet. How is it that that young people can quote to you porn stars and the names of the internet sites where you can go and look at this stuff? I mean, we've gotten to this point where people, as I said last night, raise their kids by giving them an iPhone or an iPad or a computer and then forgetting about it. So what about that? What about getting back to that? Somebody just says here, Michelle says MS-13 is taking over our schools. What about that? So these people, and I love you to death if you're watching the show, which I imagine they're probably not. But they want to put up stuff about they're mad at Trump. Oh, Trump's screwing up again. You know, they can't. First of all, they never give Trump credit for what he does right. They only point out what he does wrong. And then what they do is they say, oh my gosh, you know, he's backing off on his age to buy weapons. They're not going to get rid of AR-15s. The NRA kills children, and all is bad in the world. But yet you don't see him putting up any stories about how bad MS-13 is and how we got to go after them. You don't see anything about them putting up, you know, maybe we take away AR-15s from the people. Are the terrorists are still going to be able to get them? Does anybody ever? You don't see anything about that. No, you don't see any of these people posting stuff about let's get the family unit back together. Let's not promote smoking pot to the kids. You know, that type of stuff. No, they're not going to do that. They don't do that. They just put up what they want to hear. And so it tickles me to death when I see something like CNN or NBC or Lester Holt or ESPN or any of these places faltering, or the NFL, when they start to falter. And so it pleases me because it does show me that the country can unite. They just choose to do it in ways that, whether or not they turn the TV on that channel or not, if they could gather that energy and go out and do things together, then and really fix this country with easy solutions, we could probably, look, if you don't want to be married for the rest of your life, don't get married. If you don't want to take a pivotal role in your kids' lives and be a big role model for them, don't get married. Don't have kids. Just don't do it. Don't live in a fantasy world. You get married, you dedicate yourself to that man or that woman. You have kids. You and your wife should put yourself first. Well, really, you will. God is the foundation of your marriage. You put yourself as one above all else. And then you take care of those people. People think, oh, no, you got to put your kids above you. Baloney. You put yourself first. You make sure that you and your wife are one team and that you can provide. Then when you have kids, then you make sure that you take care of them. You know, God didn't put I'm not going to say that. I was about to use an Arkansas analogy. You know, he didn't put teats on the back of a pig so they can carry their piglets on their back. You know, he put them underneath because they can stop. They get what's going on around them, and then they eat first, and then they feed their little piglets. I don't know, that's a terrible example, but it's true. You got to take care of yourself. The man and wife need to be one. They need to be together, and then you take care of your mother, you take care of your invalid father or your children. But if you don't build that bond, the rest of it's gone. If you don't have a foundation in God, you're not going to last anyway. But you don't hear anybody talking about that stuff. Yeah, somebody says on Twitter here, I love this, put your oxygen mask on first, then help somebody else. That's exactly right. You're in an airplane. I've been in an airplane at 15,000 feet with no oxygen. you're like, you get real tired real fast. Imagine if you're 30,000 feet. The oxygen comes down, you grab it, you put it on, then you can be a hero. But it's not because you're greedy or because you love yourself more. It's because there is a rank structure. You cannot take care of others if you don't have your ducks in a row. You just can't. So I'm glad to see when these people get nice gut punches, because it means that America is still looking out, but unfortunately they're not doing it together in ways that they should be doing it. We'll still work on that. Okay, let's close this out. I hope everybody enjoyed. That was a nice walk through the headlines. Don't forget to share this show, and if you're on Twitter, retweet it. You can retweet it anytime. You can share it anytime. You can share it over and over. If you're Facebook, leave us alone. Let it populate, and let me know if you think I should grow the beard back out, because I think I'm going to. I look like I got a sunburn in here today. There you go. Okay. As we go to the Truth Zone, well, let's go to the Truth Zone. I'm going to tell you a little story. All right. So today, I was on Inside Edition. I do a little stuff for them every now and then, and we were talking about the bombings that are happening in Austin. And I'm on my way home. I walk by a deli that I go to quite often. And I got my favorite thing that I only get when I go to Inside Edition. I walk back and I have a late breakfast, and I get 2 of everything. 2 sausage, 2 bacon, 2 eggs. They actually gave me 4 pancakes, which I thought was great. So I guess I got 2 of 2 pancakes. But when I walked into the room, into this deli, there was hardly anybody in there, but a feeling of uneasiness when I walked in there. I don't know what it was. I felt great today. I was having a great day. I walk in there, and it was just instantly, I just kind of felt like, So I stand by the counter, and nobody turns around to help me. And I'm like, okay. So I didn't want to make a ruckus. I just stand there. And I'm standing there, and about 3-4 minutes go by. And so these 2, I don't know, 15-year-olds walk in, maybe 14. A boy and a girl, they walk in, they walk to the left of me. And they stand there. They never once looked at me or asked, "Are you in line?" They didn't do that once. They just sit there and waited like I did. And as soon as the guy walked up, he says to them, because they were closest to the left, "What do you want?" And these 2 kids proceeded to just tell him what they wanted. Now, I know this is New York, but when you're in a facility where nobody's at, and you walk in, and there's somebody right there already standing at the counter, shouldn't you at least ask, have you been helped yet? Well, that's not what they did. And the guy, I said, "Hold on a second." I said, "Are you 2 in school?" And they looked at me, they just looked at me, they go, "Yeah." I go, "Did they not teach you about waiting in line and about asking people if they were there first?" And they both just looked at me, and they said, "Oh, we didn't know you were in line." I said, "That's why you ask. It's called common courtesy." And the kid just looks at me like this, and I go, "And don't look at me like I'm an idiot." Maybe I overreacted a little bit, but then I walked over and paid for my stuff. I walked back, and I was so angry, because that is the problem. There is no respect. There's no sense of community in young people at all. And these young people are growing up very fast. And they're growing up very fast with a sense of entitlement and a sense of, I'm first. And that comes from being raised in homes where their parents are their best friends, where their parents spoil them. They give them whatever they want so they'll shut up, instead of disciplining their kids. And as you do that, it's a spiral downward. And so then the girl comes up, and I'd already paid for my stuff. Another girl comes up, or the nice person's the one that waited on me. The nasty one comes up and says, "Okay, your total is this." I said, "I already paid." She looks at me, she goes, "You already paid?" I said, "Yeah, I already paid." and could I get some syrup for my pancakes? And so she gives me one. I said, could I have two? Could I have some more? She gives me another one. These syrups are like this big. And I said, come on, these are big pancakes. Could I have a third? And she said, no, that's 50 cents extra for a third. Folks, I know it's syrup. I know those are just kids. But the reality is we live in a country where nobody has respect, where people own companies but they don't go the extra mile. We live in a place where a government is out to get us all, and it has to stop now, and it only stops with us coming together. I'm Jonathan Gillum. That's Rico. This is The Experts. The truth has arrived. One other thing before everybody goes, don't forget about my book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. Make sure you're telling everybody about it if you've gotten it. And if you haven't gotten it yet, go get it. Because it appears as though Amazon, I was complaining about this last night, Amazon has changed their algorithm. And it's very interesting, because certain books have taken a dive while other books haven't changed at all, and some actually went up. I don't know what they did to their algorithm, but in one day, not even one day, almost instantly, Sheep No More went from right at the top 1,000 down to over 4,000, close to 5,000 on the bestseller list. It's still number one in one category. But I don't know what their algorithm is, but the only way we're going to defeat this is if we do one of two things. Continue to sell this book, because remember, this book is to help the country, it's to help empower the citizenry and give people the ability to protect themselves by understanding how attackers think and using their tactics, techniques, and procedures to build better defenses. We have to promote this book. And if you haven't gotten it, go get it. We need the sales. We need the promotions. Tell the teachers. Tell your politicians. Tell the chiefs of police and the sheriffs. Tell your local radio stations. Call in and tell them. If you're driving down the road and they give out the number, call in and tell them. Sirius, XM, tell them. Television stations, call their news desk. Tell them to do a story on it. This is the cutting edge, and it's a cutting edge because it includes you. The truth has arrived. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. As long as you guys keep chatting, I'm going to leave it on for tonight. As long as you guys keep chatting, I'm going to leave it on for tonight.